Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for Euro 2020 fantasy football content. My name is Dan and welcome to Matchday 2's episode of Buy, Sell, Keep, Avoid. Hopefully this episode is going to be a little bit better than last week's because we can actually use the rules properly with our buy, sells, our keeps and avoids because it'll just work a little bit better this time. So guys, if you do enjoy this flagship series of this channel, it's my favourite series to do on the YouTube channel, please do give a like on the video and of course subscribe if you're new around here for regular Euro fantasy tips. We're going all the way, guys, and obviously guys, we are going to be revealing a little bit more about my team tomorrow, but today let's start off with some buys, sells, keeps and avoids. And how does it work, guys? Well, buys are players you probably don't have but should consider bringing in. Sells are players you probably have but should consider removing from your teams. Keeps are players you probably have and should keep in your teams. And avoids are players you probably don't have but you should avoid. Maybe these are players that a lot of people are kind of considering bringing in, and I'm here to help you out to avoid these players. So it's just general transfer tips, looking at the trends of transfers, who's being brought in by a lot of people, who's been kind of ignored, what kind of players are kind of going under the radar a bit, which little hidden gems can we get. Just all about transfer tips, guys. So let's go straight in with some buys. So my first buy is Kylian Mbappe, and I know usually I like to reserve this section for players that you guys probably don't have, and I know a lot of you will have Mbappe already, but Mbappe would honestly be my #1 transfer target in this week, so I had to put him in this video. Now, France have only one easy fixture in the group stage, and that is during Matchday 2 against Hungary. So now is the best time to go for some France players. So particularly if you're using your Limitless chip, you want to load up on those French premiums, Mbappe, Griezmann in attack, Hernandez, Pavard in defence. But back to Mbappe, his club form this season has just been absolutely spectacular. It gets better and better every year, doesn't it, guys? 47 appearances in all competitions with 42 goals and 11 assists. So that's well over a goal contribution per game and actually a goal every 89 minutes of football played. Now, on the international stage, his record is not quite as impressive, but he seems to be scoring around once every other game for France on recent form. And you add in assists to that, it doesn't look so bad. It looks a little bit better. You know, a goal every other game is not particularly bad anyway, to be honest. But Hungary, they haven't played too many difficult games over the last couple of years, so it's hard to say exactly how they will fare against France. They did draw 3-3 against Poland earlier this year and lose 3-2 to Russia this time last year. So those are kind of the two most high-profile games that they've been involved in, and they conceded 3 times in each of those. That kind of suggests that, you know, tournament favourite France, arguably the best team in the competition. I'm sure a lot of people would probably agree that they are the best team in the competition. They can easily score 3 against them, maybe even 4. And although I haven't actually watched Hungary play against Portugal yet, maybe that will give us a little bit more information. Either way, one of the best players in world football playing in the best team in world football, or international world football anyway, takes on the tournament minnow. It's an easy pick for me, a great candidate for captaincy as well, by Mbappe. My next buy is Denzel Dumfries. I was really impressed with Dumfries in the first game against Ukraine. Not defensively. I kind of sort of knew the Netherlands would be kind of poor, as they have been for a while. That's not to say that they can't keep a clean sheet, but with Dumfries, that's kind of secondary. So Dumfries basically spent the entire time of the opening game inside Ukraine's box. He had 2 huge chances to score, scoring one of them. He was kind of picking out those crosses and passes all game too, or at least attempting them. And in terms of defenders, this is exactly what we're kind of looking for. Spinazzola did a similar thing. We expected that, which is why we hyped him up so much pre-tournament. We saw Meunier, once he came on for the injured Castagna, Meunier was doing the exact same thing, getting in the box, charging really high up on that right flank. And these are exactly what we're talking about. When I talked about in the last buy, sell, keep, avoid videos that we want to be going for those fullbacks, those really attacking fullbacks, rather than the centre backs. This is exactly what I kind of meant. And so far in this tournament, the fullbacks have proven that they are the guys to go for in terms of defenders. So in terms of Matchday 1 defenders, Dumfries was one of those guys who stood out to me as a great buy. Austria, the next fixture, who are not exactly a free scoring team. I don't think they even scored in their 2 warm-up games. Obviously, they did score against Macedonia. I don't know how much you can say about that, but in their 2 warm-up games before the Euros, they didn't even score a single goal. I'm not saying that means that Netherlands are going to keep a clean sheet, but maybe they only concede once, I'm not sure, but if you're not using any chips in this group stage, Dumfries is also a great pick for Matchday 2 against Austria and also Matchday 3 against North Macedonia, so you can kind of have him as a really good pick for 2 fixtures. So that could be really nice as well if you're not using your chips and you want to think about it that way and plan a little bit for the future as well. So lots to like about Dumfries. He's definitely one of the standout defenders of this round of fixtures and definitely someone I would be quite interested in targeting this match day. So my first sell is N'Golo Kante. Now, as I record this video, France haven't played yet, but if they have by the time you watch this video, I'm willing to guess that he probably got you 2 points at max. Maybe he got 3 points if France kept a clean sheet against Germany and Kante avoided any yellow cards. I kind of expect that to be the tale of Kante throughout this entire tournament. I think he's just going to get 1, 2 or 3 points pretty much every single game during this tournament, so no real big returns. Kante is still the second most owned player in the game because a lot of people don't fully really understand how fantasy scoring works really, and that's absolutely fine, guys. If you've had him in the first match day, this is maybe one of your first times playing fantasy games, absolutely fine. It's not too late to change it and mix it up and try and get a little bit of that tactical advantage over some of your mates who will be picking Kante. Like I say, 40% of people, that's almost half of all fantasy teams have Kante in their team. Just kind of try and focus on players who get goals and assists. You don't really get points in fantasy other than for goals and assists with your midfielders and attackers. And N'Golo Kante has just never been known for his goals and assists. He's a strong defensive midfielder, an excellent recovery player. These kind of players are a bit useless in fantasy games, unfortunately, no matter how high quality the player is. Obviously, I've spoken about this at length before. I'm not going to put Kante in the sell section every match day. I'm sure you guys will get bored of it, but hopefully by now you kind of understand. Maybe you trusted me last match day and you went for Alaba instead of Kante, and you enjoyed those nice 5 points that Alaba got for the same price. This is kind of the thinking we need to be going for a little bit, guys. So if you still have Kante, sell him. My next sell is Ruben Diaz. I understand this pick. He's a kind of a nailed-on defender for a top side. Likely clean sheet, points in matchday 1 against Hungary. But that's pretty much all he can offer you. Now, I'm not saying he can't score headers. I've watched him score a header in the Premier League, I'm pretty sure, unless it was a Champions League game perhaps. But he's not a player who is particularly known for his aerial ability, in attack, any more than any other centre-back anyway. He's not a centre-back that will score frequently for you. So at 6 million, it's a lot of money for a realistic 6-point ceiling. More so, after the Hungary game, Portugal now have to play Germany in matchday 2 and then France in matchday 3. Realistically, can we even expect a 6-point ceiling anymore? In all likeliness, Diaz picks up 2 points at maximum in each of the next 2 games. Factor in potential multiple goals conceded, yellow cards. It could be even worse. We could be looking at 0-pointers and 1-pointers from Diaz over the next 2 games. So considering that Diaz is in an insane 40% of teams, again, he's another player in 40% of teams. He's one of the most expensive defenders. He's unlikely to get a return in any of the remaining group stage games after matchday 1. By selling him, guys, and bringing in a defender with more attacking potential and better fixtures as well, you automatically gain the advantage over that rest of those 40% of players who might keep on to Diaz. Onto some keeps. We'll start off with Jason Denayer. A few people will be disappointed that Denayer did not play against Russia. I was disappointed myself, particularly as Belgium did keep that clean sheet. I didn't really see that coming. I kind of feel a little bit robbed of those points, but I do kind of get it. So Boyata was selected instead of Denayer for this game as he has a better aerial presence and apparently has experience playing against Artem Ziyuba. I can't actually remember the two facing each other, Boyata versus Ziyuba in the past, but I suspect it was either in a previous international game back in 2019 where Belgium beat Russia 3-1, or perhaps Boyata played against Ziyuba in European competitions during his Celtic days. I don't know. Maybe someone in the comments might have a little bit more information about this. I'm sure you'll be able to clarify it for us all. Now, Ziyuba is obviously a big, powerful striker who requires a certain defensive matchup, I suppose, and that's why the decision was made by Belgium coach Roberto Martinez. It was kind of tactical. Now, in my mind, Denayer is still the first choice centre-back here. The question that remains is, has Boyata played himself into the first 11? Maybe, but probably not. If we're talking about matchups again, there's a good chance that Dolberg starts for Denmark against Belgium next, and Denayer has far more experience playing against Dolberg since they both play in a Ligue 1 in France. If Jonas Wind starts again, and, you know, it really is a coin toss, there might be a slightly more chance of Boyata starting again. It's a tough one to call, but I don't think it's time to panic just yet. In all honesty, you guys will probably be wanting to know about Wijndal as well. I'm actually more convinced that Wijndal will return to the starting 11 than I am of Denayer returning to the starting 11, but Belgium are a better defensive team, so clean sheet points are probably on the cards. So if you're on limitless or a wild card, I understand. If you want to forget about Denayer, you don't want to take the risk, you maybe want to go for Meunier because you know he's the only right wing back now available for Belgium, then fine, go for Meunier if you're on some kind of limitless or wild card chip. But if you're not using chips and you are worried a little bit about some of your players, I don't think Denayer is a player you want to be too worried about. Maybe focus your attention instead on some of the more hard-hitting players in your team. So my next keep is Harry Kane. A disappointing start for Harry Kane in the Euros, obviously, but we have to remember the fixture. Most of us knew that this was going to be a cagey opener and the toughest fixture in the group. Goals for Kane were never guaranteed, and he struggled to get very much off the ball. Now, that said, he did have one very good chance that I think on another day, he scores that. And the next time he gets that chance, I do think he will score a chance like that. Now, some people will say, but Scotland, that's going to be a really tough game too. Yes, Scotland will be up for it, but England simply have a better squad. World-class players in every attacking position, the confidence of winning their first game, and they play on home soil when they have an excellent record as well. Now, Kane is by far the most prolific goal scorer in the team, and I also think to a degree, for England, Kane is a bit of a penalty merchant. He's a great penalty taker, and with the technical players that England have got in their team, you know, like Sterling, Grealish, Foden, Sancho, England are going to win some penalties. And Scotland, also, now they're missing Tierney. I wonder if there's perhaps a little bit lacking in quality in those centre-back positions, top-level experience maybe, and maybe lacking a little bit of pace as well in defence. There's obviously Robertson, but I can't imagine he'll spend too much time of the game marking Kane. Scotland, they look pretty average and wasteful against the Czech Republic, and I think if Patrick Schick can score twice against them, Kane definitely can. Let's finish you off with some avoids. We'll start off with Giorgio Chiellini, should I say. Just to nip this in the bud, I'm not against Italy defenders. I absolutely love Italy defenders. I think you should have at least one in your team at all times. However, I looked up the most transferred players over the last 24 hours, and Chiellini, he's pretty high on that list. He's the 5th most transferred in guy of the match day. But mostly, why would you go for 6 million Chiellini when you can go for 5.5 Spinazzola? It's the exact same thing as I was kind of saying about Diaz. You really are paying for just clean sheets. And although I do accept that Chiellini is probably a better attacking aerial presence than Diaz, it's not like Chiellini is, you know, like a 5 goal per season type defender. I think he will score, he has scored maybe 1 or 2 goals in all competitions during the 2020-21 campaign. And I looked up this stat before I started recording. His last goal for Italy was over 4 years ago, back in 2017. So why would you go for that when you've got Spinazzola, gets the same amount of points for the clean sheet anyway, is cheaper, is essentially placed as a striker on that left channel? I thought he looked brilliant, creative, taking shots, cutting in. It's a no-brainer for me. Even if they were the same price, I would still go for Spinazzola if you're doubling up on Italy defenders. Okay, I kind of understand why you might want to go for Chiellini, particularly if you're on a limitless chip and you just have unlimited money to spend. But if you're making a straight choice between any of the Italy defenders and you just want one, avoid Chiellini and buy Spinazzola. And my final avoid is Paul Pogba. Now, as I mentioned earlier, it's a great time to go for some French players. They have a great fixture against Hungary in Matchday 2, and I think they'll be dominant in that game. 3-0, 4-0, wouldn't surprise me. As such, Paul Pogba is one of the most popular transfers in this week. Now, however, when targeting the standout fixture of the week, you kind of do have to be a little bit selective of what player you want to go for. Now, Pogba doesn't stand out to me as a very good fantasy player, I suppose. To see this season for Manchester United, and I guess the season before that as well, he's not really scored a lot of goals. He has been slightly creative, but not really enough to justify his price tag in Premier League fantasy or Euro fantasy. Now, the only time where he's kind of scored semi-regularly is when he's been on penalties and set pieces. He's kind of unlikely to be on any penalties or set pieces for France, and for France, his goal and assist record is just not very good. It's kind of the worst it's ever been, really. He hasn't scored a single goal for France since the 2018 World Cup final. I understand it's a pretty important time to score a goal, but that was also 3 years ago, you know, and he hasn't even got a single goal contribution in over 2 years, with his last international assist against Moldova. You know, not exactly a huge team there either. Now, I'm not saying he won't get any goals or an assist in this entire tournament, but is he more likely to get goals or assists than the plethora of other midfield options at 8.5 and less? Probably not. And if money isn't an issue, maybe you're using the limitless tip, for example, then that's even more reason to avoid Pogba and go for someone else, because you have that freedom. So for me, I would be picking out of Mbappe, Griezmann, Benzema, who is now fit. I kind of ignored the French midfield entirely, and then I pick from a defender maybe out of Pavard and Hernandez. I think those are the guys who are most likely to score you points in this game, in this match day 2. So, like I said, in the standout fixture, pick wisely, and I don't think Pogba is the wise option. Just to summarise quickly, guys, France are definitely the standout team to pick some players from in this match day. Pick wisely, but definitely go for some French players. Again, we want to be targeting those ultra-attacking fullbacks over the centre-backs for the maximum points potentials. Don't panic too much over players like Denayer and Wijndal just yet, and keep avoiding those defensive midfielders. And I guess another piece of advice that maybe I've not spoken about too much, but don't be afraid to switch up and transfer out some of your more expensive premium players for different, premium expensive players if you feel like they have a much better fixture. Don't be afraid to take out those big players if you're replacing them with a player that you think is going to score you big points, you want to captain them, etc, etc. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy what you saw today, please do leave a like on the video, and of course subscribe if you are new around here. We will be doing this video, with different players obviously, in every single match day throughout the remainder of the tournament, and hopefully it's really going to help you out with some transfer tips and helping you out to progress your team week by week. So hopefully you do enjoy that a lot. And yeah, aside from that, guys, follow me on Twitter if you like, at FPL Mate. I'm pretty active on there, so always enjoy chatting to you guys over there. And yeah, that's just about it. So I will see you later, mates. Bye bye.